Hi there, it's Luke from IAM.
And it's Andy from IAM.
And we're here today to demystify compliance, and the topic of discussion is heroes and their spreadsheets. Now, I say heroes and their spreadsheets because, for me, spreadsheets are dead now that the new annual return is now upon us in the education sector. And I know that there are people out there that obviously manage their estates via spreadsheets. And previously I would have said, yeah, absolutely fine. But I just think the game has changed. And I think that it's really important that that we sort of bring this a bit more to the light. Not because obviously we run a tech solution that obviously replaces spreadsheets. That's the obvious thing that obviously we've got we're sort of trying to push people in the direction of actually using a tool. But I do think that the time is upon us now where we now need to sort of like put the spreadsheets when it comes to compliance in schools into the graveyard. But I know that you've got a bit of a difference of opinion on this one. So I don't know if you want to sort of share with you what your opinion is.
Yeah, I think I don't believe that spreadsheets are dead. I think they can be improved upon though. And to put it like in chronological order, back in the day, a long time ago, things were just done. There was no record of anything. You just done it. The site manager would know it in his head that he needed to do something.
Well, that's the hero, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then you kind of progress from that. You end up with your sheets of paper, nice, neat folders, color-coded, on the shelf, immaculate. And then you move from that and you put it into an electronic version. And the advantage with the spreadsheet was most people could operate a spreadsheet. The disadvantage was the fact that they just used it as a two-dimensional tool. And I've been in many schools where basically it's just a matrix with information on, or you've gone into other schools and each is color-coded, things automatically happen. You put in today's date, it will automatically put in the next date that the task is done.
But they don't automatically happen though, do they? Because if you replace that with a tool that actually manages compliance, they don't do the chasing. They don't do the reminders. They don't really, you can't escalate anything in them either. So I would question whether actually the power of a spreadsheet is strong enough in today's world to be able to adapt to what is required. And so if you just I could point you to an instance actually where we had we get like hundreds of tickets every hour on the support desk or whatever about does it do this, does it do that? Somebody asked the other day, can I use the instance area in IAM? Can I push the instance into the risk register? I thought, well, why would you want to do that anyway? But because I think that if you want to start pushing instance into the risk register, then you're going to get an overwhelming risk register. But ultimately, potentially, you could do it on IAM, but you can't do that on a spreadsheet. So if you're logging incidents on a spreadsheet with RAG rating them, etc., I just think that it's the time has gone. The time has gone now. Spreadsheets need to be consigned to the scrap heap when it comes to school compliance. And I got another one as well actually. If you think about I won't say the site, but you'll know what the site is, but in Bristol. So when there was a site manager down there, and in Bristol we used to run my FM business, and she would manage that site via a spreadsheet, and it was absolutely top drawer. I mean, all right, this was like 15 years ago. It was well built. She had the typical sort of Andy Ball documentation structure to go with it as well. She was very regimented, a bit like yourself. The problem was she went on maternity leave and nobody knew what was going on. So when she came back, nothing had really happened because she was the owner of that spreadsheet, of that system.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that if you start building a system with something where you are the only person in control of that, it becomes a failed system when something like maternity leave turns up or go off sick turns up.
Well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that argument. You've won that one.
Yeah, good.
You've won the battle. You haven't won the war by any means. So the point you make is really, really relevant. The advantage with the spreadsheet is the majority of people can operate a spreadsheet because it's just filling in boxes and it's a matrix. The problem you have is when somebody develops their own spreadsheet, it's other people being able to understand that spreadsheet.
Well, I'll push back on that one then, because you answer me this then. If I have a spreadsheet and I send it to my school business manager, my governor in charge of estates, my whoever, X1 head teacher, In a mat, that could be replicated 30 times potentially. If I did that one spreadsheet sent to 5 people in that format becomes 5 spreadsheets.
Yeah.
5 separate spreadsheets.
Totally agree.
So the accuracy kind of window, the accuracy argument goes out the window as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's more of a reason why having a system with good structured data that can do the chasing, can do the reminders. You're in a world of AI now that actually you can put workflows into a tool that you won't be able to put workflows as sophisticated as what you can do in a spreadsheet. So for the sake of spending whatever cost you're going to spend on a tool, and you don't have to spend a great deal of money on a tool to manage your estate. You can use IAM obviously, but ultimately there's an element here of saying how much time are you going to save by having a tool versus having a spreadsheet. And I think that the argument really, the sort of test is, can somebody in this school that I'm working in, can they understand this data that I'm using if I were to leave? That's I think
Absolutely.
critical sort of argument number one. What about escalations? What about reminders? What about the missing pieces that are not sort of education specific, or sorry, compliance specific? Where do they go? Because a system obviously gives you that because it's been built and tailored around schools and education. So for me, if you want to meet the expectation of what the government wants, they are going to want things like structured, consistent data that is shareable in a format that is understandable against all, that doesn't change when you send it to 5 people. Yeah. I think that's probably important item number one. The other thing is you need the evidence that you can trust. I don't think you can put that in a spreadsheet. I may be wrong. Whether you think that actually the sort of entry level to this would be a spreadsheet with loads of data on the shelves. Again, I would argue that things that sit on the shelf can be lost. In an IT system or in a tool. It's not. That's never the case. And any data that sits in a system like an IAM system or like any kind of estates compliance system, any kind of handover, the data doesn't change. The data doesn't change. You have a workflow. You're not sitting there and retraining somebody to use your spreadsheet workflow. I know that's what you did when you brought in, I can't remember what his name is, but when you at the school that you were at in Somerset, everybody worked to the Andy Ball show, didn't they? Yeah. But my argument to that is that you build this system, and it kind of sits there, and if you don't use it, it almost becomes the compliance museum, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. And the problem overall with spreadsheets is exactly what you just said about the storage of information. You can store all that information on, go back to when you've done the paperwork side of things, you just have a load of folders. Store it on a spreadsheet, you just have a load of fields. But it's very complex to read and interpret and analyse. When you move up from a spreadsheet and move into the world of a database, so I always look at a database as a 3-dimensional spreadsheet because it will do other things. So whether that's a system or a database, whatever you want to call it, for those that have worked with Microsoft Office or Apple FileMaker or Google, you always start by creating a spreadsheet. Then you start coding it to turn it into a 3-dimensional database and get the information out. And the database stroke system means you can have all that information, but it's not in a complex matrix. It's easy to read. And that is a massive advantage for people that are already strapped for time in schools. They need to just glance at something and see what's happening.
I get that. But I think we're going to have to sort of agree to disagree on this one. And I think that actually the real sort of takeaway is that what I would say is, so somebody builds a spreadsheet, if you have a system where the hero is absent from the estate, the tool has failed.
Exactly, yeah.
So whatever the tool has failed. So it's best to have something that is easily digestible for people in terms of reporting that you can get out of it, which again, I would question whether spreadsheets are. Easy to use, and the data is maintained and updated by more than one person. You have a hero that sort of leads the charge, but more than one person is the solution, and it needs to be a system that everybody understands as well. So I think that's probably going to be the takeaway for me.
Yeah, I think the takeaway for me is spreadsheets aren't dead. However, they can be improved on. And a spreadsheet, for those that have got absolutely nothing at all, your very first starting point would be a good spreadsheet, because that invariably will lead to your system. So in our system, for example, we actually ask people to fill in a spreadsheet so we can upload thousands and thousands of assets all at the same time. And the reason that that works so well is because people can understand a spreadsheet. So I kind of think we probably drew on that, to be honest, but I'll take winning on penalties as my saving grace.
Fair enough. All right, we'll end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucas.
Great debate. And yeah, see you on the next one.
Bye all.
Bye.